But thanks guys for coming. We've gone back and forth on rules, and what makes our organization wonderful is that our print competition, well, I still call it print, it's not print, but our image competition is so educational and we want to keep that. We also want it to be able to be blended into either MIR or IPC. Knowing that it's almost impossible to run the same way that MIR runs because it's so private at this point that we don't know what's going on over there most of the time, and they don't have the categories that we have. So we've done a few things. We've changed some of the rules and we've changed some of the ways that we're going to do things, and we've also changed the categories. So I think, Jeff, what would make the most sense is to go into the categories first, because I think that's
Yeah,
where most people want to know like what's new, what's the same. So
exactly.
we have lots of categories still. That's not going away. So we still have lots of opportunities to learn, to try new
Real,
things. That's
real
all
quick, just
still
if I
there.
may,
Yeah.
if you guys have questions, please go to the chat box. I'm monitoring that, so type them in there. But I'm gonna let Jess go ahead and talk about the categories.
Um, would it be helpful, guys, if I shared my screen? Yes. Some
Yes.
of these could change. I
Yes,
mean, the
please.
categories are not going to change. There's going to be tweaks on some of the wording of the rules before we actually publish them to the website, and I'll tell you what they are as we're going through, but it might be easier if you guys can see what I'm doing.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, now I have to move all my boxes and make everything go away. Okay. So we have our categories. So we have in portrait, we have children and teens. That's going to be exactly the same. It is not different. We have high school seniors and teen. Again, that's exactly the same as it's always been. We do have newborn and maternity. A lot of these categories you're going to notice mimic the exact same categories that IPC has. So not MIR, but IPC. So we have newborn and maternity. We're also going to be having a natural portrait category this year. So for those who have not participated in IPC or seen World Cup, because World Cup also has natural portrait, it's essentially where, and I wish I had an example on my computer, but where the subject is the story and we're not highly embellishing the subject. So this is one where also if you are in Africa or you're in South America and you are photographing people in their natural habitats, that's going to go in this category as well. So post-production is not important in this category. It's more the capture and the appearance of the subject and their personality. We also have illustrative portrait. So illustrative portrait is going to be extensive styling, creative photo techniques. So we had Painterly last year. I don't think people knew quite what to do with it. We have broken that down into a couple different categories for portrait and non-portrait. So for portrait, if you're highly into this Painterly look, your image would go into the illustrative portrait. And then we have completely done away with our wedding category, and we just have day of wedding. So if it happened during the day of the wedding, it goes in this category. If you have, for instance, just a styled bride that you styled her and you want to put her somewhere, but it wasn't the day of the wedding, you could put her in illustrative portrait, is going to be more than likely where that's going to go. We also, so those are our portrait categories. Coming down to, we've lumped together like illustrative, commercial, scenic. This is essentially our non-portrait categories. So we have illustrative, landscape, nature, and wildlife. So in illustrative landscape, nature, and wildlife, when we're having painted birds or we're having very highly manipulated scenery images, that is now going to go right in here in this category. And that does move over into IPC as well. We do have some of these notes in here. This is what could change on what you're going to see tonight versus what's going to be on the website. If these notes are confusing, which we were talking about before you guys jumped on, they might be. Some of IPC's rules are going to be different than ours. So make sure you're reading our rules, and then when you enter IPC, make sure you're checking what their rules are. So some of the verbiage on this could change, but essentially we just want you to know that IPC's rules are different than ours. Landscape and nature, most of this is all exactly the same as what it's been in the past. I don't think anything really there has changed. Commercial is the same, essentially, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff. It's essentially the same, but we really want people to put commercial images in commercial and not be putting landscape. It's not a catch-all category, and it should be used for the purpose of images that were created for a commercial purpose. So
Yeah,
we're
that's the
just going to
main
be,
thing.
right, we're just going to be watching it better. I don't think any of the actual rules have changed there. The description's the same.
Right.
Um, but we shouldn't be using it as a catch-all category if we don't know what to do with an image. It really needs to have a commercial purpose.
So it can be a landscape if it's for a real estate
Right,
agent or something, but I mean, don't make it up. You know,
right.
it has to just legitimately be for a business. That's what the commercial category was originally conceived at, what, 1959 or something, Rick? Something like that. Yeah. We used to have to produce that usually was a transparency to prove what the ad
Hmm.
was for, or a finished advertisement if it was from a brochure
A
or
tear sheet.
a tear sheet, what they call it. Yeah. So it could be the page in the magazine or the brochure or something to prove why it was done.
Hmm.
So you don't have to do that, but think in terms of that you're doing this piece for, and like Terry, we all know Terry, who does a lot of food and stuff for, that would qualify because she's doing it
That
for a
would all qualify.
purpose. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because people are going to ask, where do I put food images? Where do I put product photography? That's all going to go into commercial.
Right.
Because if even if you didn't create it for a commercial client, the intent is still very commercial. If I have a portrait though, and it's just of a pretty girl in a pretty dress, I'm not pretending like I'm advertising for the dress designer unless I'm truly advertising for the dress designer. I mean, if you were shooting it in a highly commercial setting, I think that could work. But we really just want to make sure that this commercial category is being used for the learning purposes of shooting commercial projects.
There's definitely a lot of the honesty factor here we have to rely
Yeah.
on as to
Well,
how
and
you
I did.
show it.
I entered a portrait into commercial 2 years ago, 3 years ago. I made a magazine cover. It was for a branding session. So it was truly for a branding session. That's what we were doing was commercial branding for a nutritionist. And it was the first and only time I've ever entered commercial, but I did a whole mock-up of a magazine cover and everything. So
Right.
there's ways to do that and learn from it. I actually learned a lot of things from doing that. So that's really the only thing that changed there. We still have it, but let's just change how we're using the category. We also still have drone and aerial. I don't think that anything really here has changed, except that you will notice that IPC does not have drone and aerial. Drone and aerial at IPC falls into their landscape category. We have ours separated for more opportunities for learning and awards. We do want to make sure, I think one of the things that we talked about is drone and aerial means that you were from an aerial, like, what vehicle, right? So like not that you're standing on an elevated platform and taking a picture of a flower. You're not standing at the edge of the Grand Canyon and just leaning over, which please don't do that anyway. That's a bad idea, regardless. Um, but I think all of these are the same rules that we've had in the past. We still
Right.
have our animal categories. So we still have pets and domestic animals. These are going to fall into what we called pet portrait before, um, the exact same as it was before. Wildlife images, still exactly the same as we did last year. So last year we cut out painted wildlife and you couldn't paint or composite. That's all the same and it's in there. Um, we're not going to be allowing moving or adding elements in to wildlife though. So all the basic tools we can use, but do note when you are entering IPC that for wildlife and landscape, and it's noted in here, we're going to find a better way to word this so that you guys know that this is for IPC, this note, and it's not for PPC. But at IPC, you can't even use a healing tool, a patch tool, content aware fill. You can't use any of these tools whatsoever. So don't think that because our categories are very, very similar that it will qualify. If anything, make an image for IPC, and then if there's like a little sign or something that you want to take out, save both versions so that you have your PPA version and your PPC version.
Yeah,
We
good
still
stuff.
have the artist category. All of that is exactly the same. I don't think we've changed anything there. Reportage photojournalism, exactly the same as it was before. We did note that at IPC they have a separate sports category. Our sports images are going to still fall into reportage and photojournalism. So unless we've done, highly manipulative stuff that's going to go into an illustrative category, it's still going to fall into this category. And for categories, that's all we have. So I'm going to pause there so we can see if we have questions because I can't see the screen. I've got it just to the tiny little box.
Yeah, I don't, there's no questions yet.
Okay, cool. So category placement, just place it into an appropriate category, read all of the descriptions. If we need to, which we did do a little bit last year, and I know Jeff, his team does a lot of work prepping. If we see something that's completely in the wrong category, we're going to notify the maker and move it appropriately where it needs to go.
Yeah, we want to be fair about it. We don't want to just, we
Right.
could just move it to a new category because it states it in here. Be aware of that, but we're going to be honest with and
Yeah,
helpful and
we're going to let you
transparent.
guys know.
Okay, because there's been a couple of times somebody said, "Oh, I don't want it to go in that category. Let me resubmit something else."
Right.
So that possibility too.
Their team is great on making sure that if we need to contact makers ahead of time that we're doing that. But just little things to make sure, especially for people who watch this, if you've never done this before, if you've never competed with us, we do try to really take care of the makers as much as we can. So eligibility, most of this is all exactly the same. I don't think anything really here has changed. Um, we do have one. So we have and Jeff, you can explain this more because you host a lot of these events. Images created under direct supervision of an instructor or part of a class are not eligible. That is still the rule. But then we did make a note that images created during paid workshops while not under the guidance of the instructor. So tell people more of what that means so that people are not confused later.
Right. That's been a big problem for many years. And the idea is, you can't have somebody show you what to shoot, how to crop, how to compose, whatever, and then entering competition. But if you've paid to go to some country that you would never be able to go to again, and you want to enter something there, don't just walk, and it says 30 feet, don't just walk away from the group. Come back the next morning. Come back when the group is not there,
Hmm.
when your instructor's not around. That's okay. And we recognize the situation, but we want you to be, we have to trust you're doing the right thing on it. And it's hard for us to know. So it's just your honesty. So if you love this cliff scene and you're in the middle of Norway and the class is even, 100 yards from you, don't do it. Come back the next day. If you can't do it, send them to the car, let them wait, but don't go stand in the exact same spot as the instructor either. There's a real fine line. We got to trust you, but the
Hmm.
idea is it's your work, your vision, your scene. So that's a really muddy area, but we have to trust you on that one.
Yeah. And we just wanted, I mean, some of this is just clarifying rules we've had for years. And it's questions that Jeff probably gets dozens of every single
Yeah.
solitary year of, hey, can I do this? Hey, does this qualify? So to make it easier for everybody, we're trying to make the rules more clear in writing. Um, Images derived from another person's work without permission are ineligible. A lot of these are all basic rules that we've had forever. If you do use the same subject across multiple images, they need to represent distinct concepts and executions. So, for example, if I have a red-headed model in studio and I want to enter multiple images of her, I need to make it a completely separate and distinct concept. So I can't just enter two from the same set in different categories. I could enter the same model twice, but she would need to have like completely different concept of creation going on.
Yeah, don't just do one profile and then a front view. It's got to be
Right.
different clothing, different lighting, different background, different theme totally in order to use the same model.
And then prior competition eligibility. So some of this is going to be new. We went for the last 3 years, we've gone back and forth on whether we allow merited and IE images into our competition. It's impossible for us to know whether something has an IE or a merit. So as of 2026, they are going to be eligible as of this year. However, if you have received a bronze medal or higher from a past IPC, those are not eligible because it has been published by PPA. The same goes for images of the old IPC. So if it went through IPC 2022 or earlier, and that's 2022 or all the way back to whenever they started it, I don't care what the year was, 1912, I don't know when they started doing this, and it got a merit or higher, or it got a score of 80 or higher, you still cannot enter it into our competition. So
Yeah, only since
essentially,
MIR started.
yeah, I don't, MIR started in 23, I think was the
Three.
first year.
Right,
2022 was the last year of the old IPC.
right.
So those are still ineligible. But if you have IEs, they are now eligible from merit image review, not from the old IPC. All of the image ownership and content, all of that is the same. If you're going to add elements into an artist submission and things, they need to be sourced legally. So you've either purchased some kind of a right to use the image or it's your image and you've just taken elements out. You can't scour the internet and just look for pictures that you want to use. You do have to somehow legally own the rights to use these images. Presentation. This is another big one where we have changes. So the board gets questions, Jeff gets questions. We've had lots of people not enter our competition or MIR or IPC because the presentations are beyond what they are either capable of doing or they are just holding it back because they can't get it done on time. So as of this year, we are encouraging people not to put a border on. I'm saying encouraging, and that's probably because in future years, like we're not going to kick you out for not for putting a border on. It would be better for the judges to see everything look the same. So
Oh,
as they come through, we don't want to have 10 images without borders and then 4 images with borders. And now the judges' minds go back to, oh, I got to look at the presentation. So I'm just going to say it over and over and over until we've actually done our competition. Don't put a border on it, with the exception of artist. And I am going to create a file that shows you how we're going to do the artist borders. It's just essentially going to be a black, white, or 50% gray matte. So think back to like the when I was in high school and I was presenting my photography class, every submission had to be on a black or a white border only. It had to be mounted and it had to be in a black and white border only. That is only for the artist category because we still have to display those elements. And so that's the only reason we're doing that, to display the elements so that they can see in the artist category how we got from point A to point B. Do we have questions on that part? Nothing. You guys are easy tonight.
we'll keep encouraging you to not do borders, and if I see images come in
Yeah.
when we actually are taking it, I'll just get with you and say don't do
Yeah.
it. If something slips through, it's not the end of the world
You're
this
right.
year.
We're not going to
Um,
kick it out. We're not going to DQ it, but just imagine like the border could set you back. And that's part of the problem. I know we've all sat through judging and the image is phenomenal, and a judge, for whatever reason, cannot get past the border. Sometimes it's because it's terrible, and sometimes it is true. I mean, I've been on the judging side
you're
of
right.
just like, I don't know how to get past this because that border is atrocious, but the image is fantastic. We don't want to hold our makers back because they either don't like doing the borders, they can't figure out how to do the borders, or it's just not translating with the image. And so, if we're going to keep this educational program going for education, eliminating the borders and letting more people be able to participate just feels right to the team when we talked about it.
What's about photography anyhow, right? I mean,
Right.
it's not about
Not
borders,
about
and
borders.
how many times we've sat and listened to judges say, well, if it was a little darker brown or if it was a little lesser
Right.
blue. And some of the judges, unfortunately, I think are holding the score back because of that.
No, they
Um,
do. I
yeah.
had one go through my artist case this past year. I didn't change anything but the border, and it was no merit potential. I changed the border color and it merited. Right? So, I mean, honestly, like the border, it held it back, and that's my fault, and I'm seasoned and should know better. But at the same time, like, we're not
No.
being, shouldn't be judged on. on whether or not we made a good presentation choice, in my personal opinion. It doesn't flow into our photography, but that's just my personal opinion.
No, I
That's
think it started out as a good idea, but I think
yeah,
because of all the things they're saying, it's gotten to be so subjective that you are not getting points or not.
right. Well, and you see border trends. One year they like all of the plain borders and all the very simplistic borders. And then for a couple of years, they like all these really like very intensely made borders that have layers in them and all the things. And like they go back and forth. And on one image, they might really like this complex border. And on another image, they're like, oh, I wish the border was more simple. I want to get back to talking about the photography and what the maker did and their intent versus talking about borders. And I think most of our members who participate would agree that listening to the borders can be so frustrating. And we've had a handful of people in the last few years who simply didn't enter because they couldn't get them on in time.
Yeah, I've
Um,
heard that many times. Chuck, did you
yeah.
have a question?
No, that was me just sending the applaud clapping.
Oh, okay. I saw this out of the corner of my eye. I thought he's
Chuck is like
trying to get our
really on
attention
board
here.
with this. We have
So
a
he has
couple
some.
people who are so happy about that.
Um, let's see. Let's finish. I see the questions in the box. We'll get to it in a second. Let's
Okay.
finish a couple of things here.
Let's
Yes, go
see.
ahead.
Image size, all of that's going to stay exactly the same. We are still running off of printcompetition.com. So all of that will remain the same. We did add wildlife and ethical practices and then drone and aerial compliance. We live in a state where there are laws about how you can bait animals and things. I just want to make sure that we're following these. We are not baiting animals illegally. And then drone and aerial compliance. There's rules and regulations on that. Let's make sure that we are following them and we are not going to get ourselves in any trouble if by some chance somebody who watches these kinds of things is like, hey, that was taken illegally. One, I don't want it to come back on PPC, but I don't want it to come back on the maker either. So just make sure that you're following our applicable laws in Colorado or where you're shooting. Let's see, we're gonna do 10 images this year per maker. So we're gonna up that from 8 to 10. Nothing on most of this membership, all requirements, all of that's exactly the same. We're going to change this one sentence a little bit to say images will be judged using PPAs, and then we're going to drop the 12 elements of a merit image just because it says 12 and presentation is one of them. So we're just going to drop the number on that, but it is still based on the rest of the elements. Let's see. So just so you guys know, the tie breaking, this has not changed, but we get questions on it every year. In the event of a tie, Um, the judges come together at the very end. They cannot see the original scores. They just have to vote again. They get to see the two images side by side, and they get to choose one or two. And that's how
In
the
more,
system works, and that's how it's always worked. There's no decimal points being shown. I mean, Jeff can see the score, so he can say these tied at 85.
well, in all honesty, when we are sitting in the back room, so to speak, of the scoring, yes, the judges see the scores.
Yes,
So if there's three 85s and we need to pick one, it's just a matter of
of
somebody might
picking.
say, "Hey, here's why I like this one." No, the same as in competition. There might be a little like a
Mm.
change. They might say, "Here's what I think this one," blah blah blah, and the other somebody may talk against it, and then they vote. And so it's basically the same principle as when there's a challenge in the live competition. But yes, the judges
Mm.
do see scores.
Okay. I couldn't remember if they could physically see them or if you told them
Yes.
how.
Yeah.
Okay. And then they just pick their favorite from there. So if you see one and you've gone in and you're like, oh, but mine should have scored higher, they don't see that there were
We've never
385s and
seen
86.
decimal.
Like they can't see those. They can only see what the final score was. And that's all Jeff can see too, is what the final score was. We can
Right.
eventually see all the scores, but not when we're doing tie breaking, and it just doesn't work that way. So
Right.
I just wanted
Exactly.
to make sure we hit on that point that that's just not how it works. But in the event and on tie breaking, so we haven't talked about photographer of the year, but in the event for some reason that we had two photographers that both got like a 521 cumulative score, we would celebrate both people as photographer of the year.
That's still under debate, to
It's
be honest
never
with you.
happened. Has it ever happened?
We've come close many times.
Come close, but I don't think anybody's ever actually tied for it. But while we were updating the rules, we were like, well, in the event that it did happen, what would we do? I think if two people got the same score and they were both the same high score, two people get celebrated. So, um, going on to
To be
awards,
honest with you, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, I think that's
yeah,
still
no, you're
under
good.
discussion. That's still under discussion.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay.
This is not a woke community. If it's going to come down to judging for all the other categories for tie breaking, so will that.
Okay. Let's see. So for awards, there are major changes here. So this is one of the ones that I wanted to make sure that we hit on. With not a lot of time, but time for questions, because this one we could have questions on. So for awards, if you hold, this is going to be the most confusing part. If you hold a PPA Master of Photography or Master Artist, if you're a Master Photographer with PPA, you need to enter Master Photographic categories. If you hold a Master Artist with PPA, you need to enter Master Artist category. I'm going to close my bedroom door because now my family's home. They are home now and they are loud because they probably forgot that I'm on Zoom. Um, if you are not a master photographer or master artist, you can enter our general categories. We did have a bunch of discussion on this. So we have a lot of people who hold a master of photography, but they don't hold a master artist degree. So they are scared to enter against master artists. Well, if you want to, you can enter general artist with your master of photography, but those scores will not count towards photographer of the year. Just bear in mind, because we have a master photographer of the year and a general photographer of the year, so we have to keep those scores separated. But what
You're
this will
taking yourself
allow,
out of it. Yeah.
right, what this will allow is for, let's say Chuck got her master of photography or he got his master of photography, but he wants to try artist. It will allow some of those additional entries past the six that you need for photographer of the year to go ahead and give the general artist a try. Because if you're not giving it a try because you're too scared to compete against the masters, then you're not going to learn anything. So we have opened it up in that way. But let's say Chuck gets his 100 in general art, general artist. I can't even think anymore. That 100 is not going to count towards his master photography of the year. So just bear that in mind while you're doing that, but don't hold back on entering the artist category because you're not a master yet.
May I make another point
Yes.
here? In judging, the judges do not know who you are.
No.
They do not even know. We don't judge. We judge by category. So we have both general and masters in the same category. We don't judge by
Right.
general landscape.
Nope.
So a judge is not going to know that you are
They
a
have no
master
idea.
entering in a landscape for the first time, whatever. They're all, so basically what I'm saying is all the images are judged by the same criteria of that judge. So nobody goes any easier because, oh, you're just a general.
Nope.
That's a misnomer that I don't know how I got started, but all the images are judged equally, so it doesn't really matter really where you are, what category you're in. They're all being judged equally, so you might as well enter them in your master category so you have a chance to win the top awards.
Right. Especially if you have something that's absolutely fantastic, have a couple of people look at it if you want to enter the artist category and you do think it's going to score well, because then if you enter it into the master category and you hold your master photography, that really good score is now going to count towards your top six if it's one of your
Right,
top six.
right.
So please be asking ahead of time. Don't send them to Jeff, but send them to everybody else because or Jeff knows whose everybody's is anyway. Do you not? I
Yeah.
can't remember. Do we send them to? We don't send them to Rick because he is our print comp chair. Do not send them to Rick.
Right.
Or
You can send stuff to me that doesn't
okay.
matter with
Send them to
questions.
Jeff, but don't send them to Rick because there's always a possibility that Rick is going to have to break a tie
Right.
or
That
judge
happens.
for
That happens.
someone. If somebody DQs themselves during judging, Rick does have to step in to push the button. So he can't know whose images are whose.
True.
Um, for category awards, this is also a major change. I'm going to see if I can, I mean, it does make sense, but I'm going to see if I can explain it with words. I'm so tired because we're up on a 3-hour schedule of giving meds to our teeny tiny child who had her tonsils out. So I like have a newborn at home is what it feels like. We're going to be still giving first, second, and third place awards in each category based on scores of at least 80 points. So you have to score at least an 80 to get a trophy. However, in 2026, we will only have one placement award per maker, which means if somebody comes in and sweeps a category, they're only going to get a trophy for their highest score. And then second place will go to the next person with the next highest score, and third place will go to a third person with the next highest score. So essentially, first, second, and third in every category will always be 3 different makers. I'm going to pause there in case we need any emergency questions on that right now. No? Okay, good.
Well, there's some questions.
I'm
Somebody just
sure
put
there's
something on.
questions. So
Ellie says share
essentially,
the love.
share the love. Also, if you do participate in IPC or you want to participate in IPC, you can enter 100 images into a category at IPC. Only one can go forward to the top 32. So it's essentially the exact same thought process of rewarding more people. Um, but also we're not going to have people that are coming in and sweeping an entire category. I know there's going to be mixed reviews on that both ways of like we like it when we come in and we sweep a category because we did really, really well. However, those scores, so your second place score and your third place score, even though you're not leaving with a trophy, they still count towards your Photographer of the Year award, possibly. So those scores still accumulate towards that possible award. If fewer than 3 unique makers qualify, then we're just going to have fewer trophies for that category that year, which is what we do right now. If we don't have enough qualifying entries, we only award trophies to the qualifying entries that we have. Let's see. So Photographer of the Year are still based on the top cumulative 6 images, regardless of the category awards. So again, even if you didn't earn a trophy for something, it still counts towards your Photographer of the Year. And then to be eligible for Master Photographer or General Photographer of the Year, you must submit at least 6 entries. So you have to have at least 6 entries in order to qualify, period. Only entries that were submitted in the Masters category can be used towards the Masters. Same for well, that wouldn't make any sense the other way around, right, Jeff? That only makes sense for Master.
Right. Right.
Right. Okay. And PPA Master Photographers are not entitled to receive a General Photographer of the Year designation. Just in case you thought to yourself, if you happen to be just a master artist and you enter all artists, I don't know that that's ever happened or that's something that we would do. But it is Photographer of the Year, so if you are a PPA master, you cannot receive the General Photographer of the Year. And then most of the rest of it is still consistent with our same rules. So if something happens during competition, the executive board or the print competition committee, they have to jump in and just make sure that awards and designations are adjusted as needed. Um, but for the most part, those are all of the new things. What questions do we have or what clarifications do we need? Since I can't
Okay.
see the
So,
questions.
yeah, no, it's okay. So let's see. Let me click over here. So somebody said, where does flower macro photography fall? It would still be under
It will still
illustrative
be
if you
under
paint.
landscape nature, or if you painted it, it'll be under illustrative. I'm trying to scroll
Right.
back.
Um,
So we have the illustrative landscape nature wildlife. So if you painted it or it's highly manipulated, it'll go in this category. If it's just a macro or flower and you did not, it's photographic, it'll still go in this category.
uh, Are the editing rules for landscape and drone the same pretty much?
Yes.
Um, File requirements don't state that, yeah, there's some missing
Is
information
there
on this
missing info?
document.
Okay.
So it just says 4,000 pixels, but it's got to be a JPEG, it's got to be a 9 or 10 compression, and that'll all be in the final documents, and it has to be a JPEG.
Yes. It does need to be JPEG. I don't know why it doesn't say that.
Yeah, Ally says that, and then
I can't even find it now, guys. I know it's in here. Right
also,
there.
let me see how to handle this one. Not to bring up a conversation right now because we do have to end this in a minute, but there's several people who are disagreeing with the one trophy per category per person. Just
Mhm.
just saying that, just put it on your notepad.
Yeah. So this was, and I mean, I don't know what executive board members we have on here tonight too. This was at length. This conversation was at length and it went on, and I can't read your guys' stuff, so I don't even know who's typing what. But essentially, like, I know that we all work really, really hard. We have multiple other awards for doing very well overall, and we do not want people to think that they can't enter. So I'll just throw myself out there. I have had other photographers call me to ask if I am entering our competition because they don't want to enter into any category that I have entered into in the event that I'm just going to come in and sweep the whole category. I don't want that to be the precedent of how we are doing things, and I don't want people to think I can't enter because so and so is entering. Just because somebody else is entering, I think that's all the more reason to prep something and see how well that you can do. So the conversation became not only how do we share more love, but how are we rewarding more makers for also doing well in the competition? We still have our Court of Honor, which honors the top 10 makers. So we still have Court of Honor, we still have all of our pins, and we still have our Photographer of the Year, which are from cumulative points. And so all of those things are still going to reward overall excellence, while we are going to also give some love and reward makers in the categories that are not just the same top image makers all the time. I know that it's a controversial idea. I understand that. So I don't know if any of the other executive board members want to jump on with any of the other thoughts that we had on this. Um, but I do think it's something that's going to be really positive for our group.
Well, and the only other side of it that I'm hearing from other folks is that this is a competition. A competition rewards the images that are done well. If one person comes in and does well overall of their images for a year, more power to them. They may not next year. That should be an incentive for someone to do better and not tweak out. Again, we want to keep this as a competition and not just so and so always does well. Well, so and so does well because they try hard. Not to say,
Right,
try hard, but because it's very controversial, but it's not about getting a black ribbon because you showed up. It's not about that at all, and that's what we want to keep this
right,
from. And that's what I'm
right.
hearing, folks.
And we have like the conversations we have about this event, it's so hard because we have a huge educational piece to this and it is a competition. So we're trying to funnel two different things into the same event essentially. And that's, I think, why PPA went two different directions with MIR versus IPC. But for us, it's still very much it's one event. And so we're trying to feed both the educational pieces of this while we're also trying to feed participation in our group and excellence in competition. So we're trying to feed all of those things into one event and make it something that's really meaningful for our group overall and not just the fact that you can leave with a whole bunch of trophies. And I say that being the person that I have left with a whole bunch of trophies. So it's not something that even I'm upset about. It's something that I think is going to be a positive change. And if we do this for a couple of years and it's not a positive change, we want the feedback. We want to know these things because it is always about improving the group overall and not just one person likes this one event, so let's do it this way.
Exactly. That's the thing is that we have to do
Yeah,
think about everybody involved. And I've left with several trophies in a category, and I've left with no trophies. So just
right.
because you do it one time doesn't mean you're going to do it every year. And
No.
please, as a fellow competitor, don't so and so is going to win all the trophies again.
Right.
Make it as your goal to win trophies. We had a lot of new winners this past year that haven't won before and did very well. So it's definitely very, very, very possible to do.
Um,
Yes, sir.
my, yeah, my question is tonight's presentation an announcement of the way things are going to be? Or
Um,
is it a forum for, as you ask for questions or opinions that suggests that this is in, uh, I'm sorry, um, is flexible so that changes will be made. The point I'm making is I appreciate that you're making this presentation, but if it's an announcement of these are the changes, this is the way it's going to be, why ask for questions or opinions if it's not going to change? I know I have my opinions, but if this is the way it's going to be, this is the way it's going to be. Some things I don't agree with. Some things I think are appropriate. Uh, but what matter is it going to make if we don't have input? Um, so, and I just respectfully submit that opinion.
yeah, no, I mean, I totally understand the concept of that. This is more of an announcement of how it's going to be this year, but that doesn't mean that it cannot change and evolve over the year. We have to get to a point where we make a decision. This is what we're going to go with for the year. And this has been discussed at length. I mean, these are changes that have been discussed over the course of multiple years. This isn't even changes discussed over the course of just one or two conversations. This is years worth of work on multiple teams of going back and forth between looking at what other competitions are doing, what other PPA, they're not called affiliates anymore, but what other PPA community network
Yeah,
partners
and I
are
can
doing.
appreciate. I
Right.
can,
So,
I can
but
appreciate.
we need to, one, answer questions. So that's why we're asking for questions. But we do want feedback as this evolves of how it's going.
Okay.
Um,
I
Feedback,
got
yes,
two
I
more
don't.
questions here when you're done.
Okay, no, go, Jeff. You're good.
Well, I just want
Um,
to chime in real quick. So, Jess, you asked
Yeah.
for any additional executive board members to chime in. So, you covered the vast majority of it, and I appreciate you taking the front there. Everybody needs to keep in mind that we have to balance the needs of the organization as the executive board, and we need to drive engagement from the community and engagement from all of our members as much as possible. So that's really where we aligned on this, and also aligning with that IPC path that Jessica mentioned, where you can
Mhm.
submit as many as you want, but only one can win. So I'll just throw that out there. But thanks, Jessica, for taking the lead on.
well, and
Yeah,
on that
cool.
point too, if you score, in one category, three images, 88, 89, 90, and you get first place to 90 and somebody else gets second, third, you still have those points that go towards the photographer of the
Correct.
year or
Yep.
the other
And the court of honor, because we still
and
have
court
court
of
of honor
honor.
too.
Yeah, so we're not
And the
taking
six
that
for
away.
six and everything else that I think
And the
is
Exactly,
six
that
for,
all
and we
stays.
still have best in show. So the highest
Yeah,
winning image overall still also gets the highest designation of the night. And that one
right.
also often, not always, but often gets the CPP award and the ASP award. It's not
Yeah.
every time because it depends on whether you're an ASP member or not, but
One more quick
um,
question here.
yes,
So somebody's asking the six for six category.
yes.
That is not per category. That's just your total images. So let's say you have, six images over 80 and you're in six different categories. That's the same as getting all six in the same category. You still are six for six or
Yes. So
whatever.
6 for 6 means that you got, so you can enter 10, but your case, so PPA used to have what they called a case, which was 4 images. So your case with PPC is really 6 images, even though you can enter 10. So you now have 4 flex images to see if you want to try something new. Um, your 6 for 6 is you merited 6 of 10 images. Across any categories, it does not matter. Your 5 for 6 and then 4 for 6 is the same concept. So you got 4 merits, or you got 5 merits, or you got 6 merits, and those are all pins that you get at the award ceremony. Any category, you just enter all the categories. We actually last year highly encouraged people to enter categories they've never entered, and it was really cool to see.
Yeah, give us your best work, and know that by the laws of some of us old timers will agree to this one, the laws of nature or whatever you want to call it, just because it's your favorite image may not be the highest scoring image of your collection. So
Correct.
do well in all of them, and sometimes you'll
Yeah,
submit something you just know is going to get a merit and it gets a 79, and the one you didn't merit almost didn't submit gets an 87. You just never
right.
know.
Yeah,
Sorry.
well, between the show and then your guys' team puts together such a great panel of judges every year that we get lots of different viewpoints on things too.
And,
I mean, listening to the judges fight it out half of the time is most of the education.
Have you
and
had any
and
more?
you do get into the special 79 club too. So we do have
Correct.
that.
We have a
Bill,
79 club.
do we have a pin for that?
We need to.
No, we need a
There,
dunce cap for that
there'd
one.
be a lot of
Ooh.
them though.
Um,
It
do
might
we have
it's not that bad of an idea, frankly, just for
Well, it's
fun.
not. So one of the other things that Jessica's okay if I talk about this, who we've been
Yeah.
talking about getting for judges. Here's my
Oh yeah,
thought.
I love this.
We're going to pull in 4 judges that we've worked with, that are experienced and know the categories and so on and so forth. One additional point on that is that some I've heard this many times. We don't there isn't such a judge as a landscape judge. There isn't such a judge as a portrait judge. They have to be well versed in all the categories. So you can't go in and assume that you're going to do well because this person has posted a baby portrait and they still have to judge nature and so on and so forth. But the other point is the other judge position, because we have 5 in the panel, we're considering, and Jessica, here's my suggestion. Let's get
Hmm.
3 PPC members and give them a third of the day. So let's say we get
Yeah.
240 images. One of you may judge for 80 images and so on. Those, and then you'll switch off to get some experience to get a feel for how it works on the other side. And
Hmm.
you'll be involved in the end of the day when we have to go through and break ties and talk about things like that. So that gives us more of an opportunity to have more people involved in that. So that's kind of what I'm trying
Yeah.
to suggest. Anytime you come up with 3 PPC masters that you think would be worthy,
I
let's
think it's a fantastic idea. I mean, I think it's just you'll have to DQ yourself if you know the image, but outside of that, I think just having that opportunity to sit on the other side, now that I've had the opportunity in big and small competitions to sit on the other side, it is an invaluable lesson to what we're doing.
yeah.
You cannot learn it better than by doing it. So, if you are listening to this tonight or you know of somebody who might be a good fit for that, just pop me over their names because I'm gonna send Jeff a list. I'm gonna let him make the call or, call people and just get a feel of where they're at and why they want to do it. But just pick a couple of our members to sit on the panel because as mad as we can be at those judges, it's really hard to sit on the panel.
It's
You have
different.
to make
It's
a
different
call.
market. Well, thanks, gang. So feel free to.
Absolutely.
We're gonna go over We'll go over this. Jess is gonna rewrite some of these little things
Yep,
and put it
our
back
little
up. It'll
notes.
be posted on the website as well for you. Um, and yeah, so we will answer more. Please don't hesitate. If you have more questions, send them to Jess or
Hmm.
me, um, and we'll do the best we can for you. Um, Realize, like she said, we have to consider many different points of view and different
So many
reasons for
things.
these rules and things. We do want this to be fair. We don't want it to get to be where everybody wins a trophy because that's not what a competition is, and
No.
that's not mean. That's just it's a competition. That means competition. Look up the word. It means do
Well,
good.
and if you want to
And
leave with a
we're
whole
not
bunch of
expecting that to
trophies,
happen either, right?
no.
So
But I
let's
mean,
just be
truly,
clear.
guys, if you want to leave with a whole bunch of trophies, enter more categories, right? Because the opportunity to do well across more categories, try new things. I know so many landscape photographers that used to be portrait photographers, but they retired their business and they started winning awards elsewhere, trying something new. The opportunity to try something new is absolutely still there. So just because you might not come in and sweep a whole category does not mean you can't potentially come in and sweep the entire competition still. I mean,
Yeah.
the opportunity for awards and trophies, which a lot of us use for marketing, it's absolutely still there. We're just gonna spread the love a little bit more. A little bit more. All of the excellence is all still there too. We have all of the same awards. I didn't put all of the awards in this document, but all of our previously won awards that we've had before, those are all still there. Nothing there has been removed or taken down at all.
Another thing that I'll just throw at you here, and I'm looking up real quick because I
Yeah,
can't remember these things. So as far as the image critique show, we have scheduled not one but two shows prior to the competition.
yep,
So the um September, let's see, September 24th and October 1st are image critique shows that are dedicated to your competition images.
right.
So go ahead and prepare them, submit them, and you'll get feedback. We'll have a couple of guests as well. And then unfortunately, we kick Rick out of the October 1st score just because it's so close
Yep.
to competition. And what are the dates? What's the deadline for entering, Jessica?
I had the deadline. Oh, I don't have
Like
it on this sheet.
like the 9th.
It was the 9th, I think. Yeah, I'm trying to
October is
look
the
at a
last
calendar.
day. Well, there'll be more.
No, it's not the 9th. It's before that. Because I think print comp
Oh, the
watch
competition's on
party
the
is on the
11th.
11th.
Yeah,
So the cutoff date is going to be, I want to say that I said it was the 5th when I sent it over
yeah,
to
I think
John
you're
for
right.
the website.
I think you're
So
right.
cutoff is going to be right after the image critique show. But guys, that gives you like one, two, three, that gives you 3 whole days. So for me,
Well,
like
we
all I
have,
need is 3 days. I only do it at the very last minute. I'm the person entering at the last humanly possible second. So
well, we have tonight's show. We have the 26th of July,
yes.
and then we have September and October. We got four more chances to submit some images to get feedback on if you're thinking
Yes.
about competition. That's what we're there for.
Thank you guys for having us tonight.
Thank you. Thank you, Jessica.
Yeah.
Appreciate your time and presentation. Very well.
Thank you so much. Love you guys.